Chapter 1. The Wake-Up Call. My name is Daisy, and I'll never forget the moment I realized I had become invisible in my own life. It was my 35th birthday party in downtown Vancouver, and I was standing in the corner of my own celebration, watching everyone gravitate toward my friend Jessica. She wasn't the youngest person there, nor was she wearing the most expensive dress, but something about her drew people like a magnet. Men hung on her every word, women sought her advice, and she seemed to effortlessly command the room's attention. Meanwhile, I felt like a wallflower at my own party. "Happy birthday, Daisy," said Mark, a colleague from my accounting firm, but his eyes were already scanning the room for someone more interesting to talk to. Within minutes, he had drifted away, leaving me alone with my growing sense of inadequacy. I excused myself to the bathroom and stared at my reflection. At 35, I was attractive enough. I had good skin, maintained my figure, and always dressed appropriately. So why did I feel so powerless? Why did men seem to look through me rather than at me? Why did I constantly feel like I was trying too hard to get basic respect and attention? That night, as I cleaned up empty glasses and leftover cake, I made a decision that would change everything. I was tired of being the supporting character in my own life story. I wanted to understand what made some women magnetic, while others, like me, seemed to fade into the background. I had no idea that this question would lead me on a journey of self-discovery that would transform not just how others saw me, but how I saw myself. Chapter 2. The Search for Answers. The next morning, I began researching what I privately called the magnetism mystery. I read psychology articles, watched documentaries, and studied the women around me who seemed to possess that indefinable quality of attraction. During my research, I discovered the work of Dr. Walker Teddy, a renowned psychologist from Austin, Texas, who specialized in what he called authentic feminine magnetism. His research caught my attention because it wasn't about manipulation or playing games. It was about uncovering and expressing your genuine self in a way that naturally draws others to you. Dr. Teddy's studies, conducted across the United States, Canada, and Australia, showed that magnetic women shared 6 specific behaviors that had nothing to do with age, conventional beauty, or wealth. These behaviors were psychological and could be learned by any woman willing to do the inner work. I gathered my courage and sent him an email explaining my situation. To my surprise, he responded within 2 days, inviting me to participate in his latest research study on feminine magnetism in professional women over 30. "Daisy," he wrote, "what you're experiencing is more common than you think. Many intelligent, accomplished women struggle with personal magnetism because they've been taught to minimize themselves to be appropriate. But authentic attraction comes from the opposite, from owning your full power and presence." Those words hit me like lightning. I had spent my entire adult life trying to be appropriate, agreeable, and uncontroversial. In doing so, I had made myself forgettable. Chapter 3. Meeting my mentor. 3 weeks later, I found myself on a video call with Dr. Teddy from his office in Austin. He was a distinguished man in his 60s, with kind but penetrating eyes that seemed to see right through my carefully constructed facade. "Tell me about your birthday party," he said after we exchanged pleasantries. As I described that humiliating evening, Dr. Teddy listened without judgment. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and said something that changed my perspective forever. "Daisy, you've been living as if your natural magnetism is something to be apologized for rather than celebrated. Carl Jung taught us that what we resist in ourselves often becomes the very thing we need to integrate to become whole. You've been resisting your own power." He explained that his research was based on both modern psychology and Jung's theories about the authentic self. Jung believed that every person has an innate capacity for what he called psychological magnetism, the ability to attract others through authentic presence rather than performance. Dr. Teddy introduced me to his 6 pillars of authentic magnetism, developed through years of research with over 800 women across North America and Australia. These weren't tricks or manipulative tactics, but psychological principles that helped women access their natural charisma. The most magnetic women, he explained, aren't trying to get attention. They're expressing their authentic selves so fully that attention becomes a natural byproduct. Chapter 4. Pillar 1. Confidence as your foundation. Before we work on anything external, Dr. Teddy said during our second session, "We need to address your relationship with confidence. Confidence isn't something you have or don't have, it's something you practice." He shared research from Webster University showing that people with genuine self-confidence are perceived as more attractive regardless of their physical features. The study found that confidence is literally the first thing people sense about you, even before they process your appearance. Dr. Teddy taught me what he called embodied confidence, confidence that starts in your body and radiates outward. For the next 2 weeks, he instructed, "I want you to practice 3 simple things. Walk as if you own the space you're in. Speak as if your words have value. And make eye contact as if you're genuinely interested in connecting with people." The first day was awkward. I felt like I was acting, pretending to be someone more confident than I was. But Dr. Teddy had warned me about this. Your brain will resist the change because it's unfamiliar. Push through the discomfort. By the end of the first week, something remarkable happened. My colleague Sandra, who had never shown much interest in my opinions, asked me to lead a presentation to our biggest client. "You seem so much more assured lately," she said. "I think you'd handle it well." I was shocked. Such a small change in how I carried myself had created a noticeable shift in how others perceived me. Chapter 5, Pillar 2, The Power of Detachment. During our third session, Dr. Teddy introduced me to what he called magnetic detachment, the psychological principle that people value what they can't completely have or control. "Think about the most fascinating people you know," he said. "They're not the ones who are always available or desperate for approval. They're the ones who have their own lives, their own interests, their own sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on others." He shared a case study from his research in Toronto, where he worked with Elizabeth, a 38-year-old marketing executive who transformed her dating life by applying this principle. Elizabeth used to be the woman who would drop everything for a man's attention. She would text immediately, always be available, and plan her schedule around potential romantic interests. Her relationships were shallow and short-lived. After learning magnetic detachment, Elizabeth began prioritizing her own life. She started pottery classes, joined a hiking group, and became genuinely excited about her own activities. Suddenly, men began pursuing her more seriously because she had become genuinely interesting and unavailable on demand. Dr. Teddy gave me a practical challenge. For the next month, I want you to build a life so engaging that you don't have time to be overly available to anyone who doesn't earn your attention. This was terrifying. I realized I had been using my availability as a way to feel needed and important. If I wasn't always ready to help, support, or accommodate others, would anyone want me around? But I followed his advice. I signed up for a creative writing class, started volunteering at the animal shelter, and began saying no to social obligations that didn't genuinely interest me. The results were immediate and surprising. Colleagues began seeking my opinion more often. Friends started making more effort to spend time with me, and I felt more energetic and interesting than I had in years. Chapter 6, Pillar 3, Style as Self-Expression. Your appearance isn't about following trends, Dr. Teddy explained during our fourth session. It's about using visual communication to express your authentic self. He shared research from Psychology Today showing that people make judgments about others within 7 seconds of meeting them. And much of that judgment is based on how someone presents themselves visually. But here's the key, he continued. The most magnetic women don't dress to please others. They dress to express their own essence and to feel powerful in their own skin. Dr. Teddy introduced me to the concept of psychological styling, choosing clothes, colors, and accessories that align with your inner energy and the impression you want to make. Colors carry psychological weight, he explained. Red conveys passion and power. Navy suggests intelligence and authority. Earth tones create warmth and approachability. The key is choosing colors that make you feel like your most authentic self. He gave me an assignment. Go through your wardrobe and ask yourself, does this piece make me feel powerful and authentic? If the answer is no, donate it. Then slowly rebuild your wardrobe with pieces that make you feel like the most confident version of yourself. This exercise was revelatory. I realized I had been dressing to disappear, choosing safe, neutral clothes that wouldn't offend anyone, but also didn't express anything about who I was. I invested in a few key pieces. A red blazer that made me feel powerful, well-fitted jeans that flattered my figure, and a signature fragrance that made me feel feminine and confident. The change in how I felt about myself was immediate, and others noticed too. "You look amazing," my sister commented during our next video call. "There's something different about you. You seem more ... present." Chapter 7. Pillar 4. Embracing Feminine Energy. The fourth pillar proved to be the most challenging for me to understand. Dr. Teddy explained that magnetic women understand the power of feminine energy, not as weakness, but as a different kind of strength. Carl Jung wrote about the anima and animus, the feminine and masculine energies that exist within all people. Dr. Teddy explained, "In our culture, women are often taught to suppress their feminine energy and adopt masculine approaches to be taken seriously. But the most magnetic women integrate both energies harmoniously." He shared a case study from his work in Melbourne, Australia, with Rebecca, a 42-year-old lawyer who had been struggling to connect with people despite her professional success. Rebecca had adopted a very masculine communication style, direct, controlling, always taking charge. She was respected but not particularly liked or trusted. When she learned to balance this with feminine energy being receptive, collaborative, and emotionally intelligent, her entire career trajectory changed. She became the lawyer clients specifically requested because they felt understood and supported. Dr. Teddy taught me practical ways to integrate feminine energy. Learn to listen deeply rather than waiting for your turn to speak. Ask questions that help others feel heard and understood. Use pauses in conversation to create space for connection. Allow others to contribute and lead sometimes. This was difficult for me because I had learned to survive in the corporate world by being aggressively competent and self-reliant. Learning to be receptive felt vulnerable. But as I practiced these skills, I noticed that people began opening up to me more. Colleagues started confiding in me. Friends sought my advice more often, and I began to feel more connected to the people around me. Chapter 8. Pillar 5. The Art of Magnetic Conversation. Conversation is where magnetism is most clearly demonstrated, Dr. Teddy said during our 6th session. Magnetic women don't talk the most or try to impress others. They create connection through their presence and curiosity. He shared research showing that 80% of attraction comes from nonverbal communication. How you say something is more important than what you say. The most magnetic conversationalists mastered 3 skills: strategic eye contact, the power of mystery, and asking questions that create emotional connection. Dr. Teddy taught me specific techniques. Strategic eye contact. Hold someone's gaze for 3 to 5 seconds, then look away slowly. This creates a sense of intimacy and attention without being aggressive. The power of mystery. Don't reveal everything about yourself immediately. Answer questions briefly and let them ask for more details. What you don't say can be as powerful as what you do say. Emotional connection questions. Instead of asking, "What do you do?" ask, "What's exciting you most about your work lately?" Or, "If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose and why?" I practiced these techniques at a networking event for accountants in downtown Vancouver. The change was remarkable. Instead of the usual superficial small talk, I found myself in deep, engaging conversations. People seemed genuinely interested in talking with me, and I felt more energized by social interactions than I had in years. Chapter 9. Pillar 6. Independence as Magnetism. The final pillar was both the most challenging and the most transformative. Dr. Teddy called it self-contained magnetism, being so fulfilled by your own life that others want to be part of it. The most magnetic women aren't looking for someone to complete them, he explained. They're looking for someone worthy of joining their already fascinating life. He shared research from the University of California, showing that people are most attracted to those who have what psychologists call secure attachment, the ability to form close relationships while maintaining a strong sense of individual identity. Think about it, Dr. Teddy said. Would you rather be with someone who desperately needs you to feel complete, or someone who wants you because you add value to their already rich life? He gave me the most challenging assignment yet. Build a life so engaging that you would be happy living it alone, but so interesting that others naturally want to be part of it. This meant developing hobbies, interests, and goals that had nothing to do with romantic relationships or other people's approval. I started taking photography classes, planning solo trips, and setting career goals that excited me personally. The transformation was profound. As I became more fulfilled individually, I became more selective about who I spent time with, and more confident in all my relationships. Chapter 10. The Test. 6 months into my work with Dr. Teddy, I faced my biggest test. My company was hosting its annual conference, and I was asked to present our department's achievements to 200 industry professionals. The old Daisy would have been terrified, over-prepared to the point of exhaustion, and desperately seeking approval from the audience. But the new Daisy approached this opportunity differently. I prepared thoroughly but calmly, chose a red dress that made me feel powerful, and focused on connecting with the audience rather than impressing them. During my presentation, I used the conversation techniques Dr. Teddy had taught me, making eye contact, using strategic pauses, and asking engaging questions. The response was extraordinary. Not only did I receive a standing ovation, but 3 companies approached me afterward with job offers. More importantly, I felt genuinely confident and authentic throughout the entire experience. "You commanded that room," my colleague James said afterward. "There was something different about your presence. You seemed so comfortable and powerful up there." Chapter 11. The Ripple Effect. As I continued applying Dr. Teddy's principles, the changes in my life accelerated. I was promoted to senior manager, began leading important client presentations, and found myself naturally becoming someone others looked to for leadership and advice. But the most significant change was in my personal relationships. I attracted higher quality friendships with women who shared my interests and values. I also began dating, but from a completely different place, not desperately seeking completion, but sharing my already full life with worthy partners. I met David, a photographer who shared my love of travel and creativity, at an art gallery opening I attended alone. Our relationship developed naturally because we were both complete individuals choosing to enhance each other's lives, rather than fill gaps in them. 6 months later, Dr. Teddy invited me to speak at a conference about women's leadership in Vancouver. As I shared my story with 150 professional women, I realized I had become the kind of woman I used to admire from afar: confident, magnetic, and authentically powerful. Chapter 12. Teaching Others. A year after beginning my work with Dr. Teddy, he invited me to co-facilitate a workshop series called Authentic Magnetism for Professional Women. Women from across British Columbia, and eventually from Alberta and Ontario, began attending our sessions. The stories I heard were heartbreakingly familiar. Successful, intelligent women who felt invisible, overlooked, or constantly struggling for basic respect and attention. Each woman's journey was unique, but the transformation process followed similar patterns. Sarah, a 41-year-old engineer from Calgary, discovered that her people-pleasing behavior was actually pushing others away. "I thought being agreeable would make people like me," she said. "But when I started having opinions and boundaries, people began respecting me more." Michelle, a 38-year-old teacher from Toronto, learned that her self-deprecating humor was undermining her authority. "I was so afraid of seeming arrogant that I constantly put myself down. When I started speaking about my accomplishments with quiet pride, my students and colleagues began taking me more seriously." Jennifer, a 44-year-old marketing director from Sydney who joined our virtual sessions, discovered that her over-availability was making her less valuable to others. "I was always the first to volunteer, always available for extra work, always accommodating everyone else's schedule. When I started prioritizing my own time and energy, paradoxically, people began valuing my contributions more." Each woman's transformation reinforced what Dr. Teddy had taught me. Magnetism isn't about manipulation or performance. It's about removing the barriers that prevent others from seeing your authentic power. Chapter 13. The Science Behind the Transformation. As I became more involved in Dr. Teddy's research, I learned the scientific basis for the changes I had experienced. Studies from universities across the United States and Canada showed that the 6 pillars we taught were based on solid psychological principles. Confidence research from Stanford University demonstrated that people who practiced power posing for just 2 minutes experienced measurable increases in testosterone and decreases in cortisol, leading to more confident behavior and better performance in challenging situations. Attachment theory research from the University of Toronto showed that people with secure attachment styles, those who are comfortable with intimacy but maintain strong individual identities, have more satisfying relationships and are perceived as more attractive by others. Social psychology studies from Harvard revealed that people are naturally drawn to those who seem selective and valuable, confirming the psychological basis of magnetic detachment. Communication research from the University of California demonstrated that nonverbal communication accounts for up to 80% of interpersonal attraction, supporting our focus on presence and energy over verbal techniques. Understanding the science behind my transformation made it feel less like magic and more like a learnable skill set that any woman could develop with proper guidance and practice. Chapter 14. The Deeper Transformation. 2 years after that humiliating birthday party, I barely recognized the woman I had become. But the changes went deeper than just being more magnetic or attractive to others. I had developed what Dr. Teddy called integrated confidence, a sense of self-worth that didn't depend on external validation. I knew my value regardless of how others responded to me. My career had flourished beyond my wildest expectations. I was now regional director for my accounting firm, regularly spoke at industry conferences, and had been featured in Canadian Business Magazine as one of 30 women leaders to watch. My personal life was equally fulfilling. David and I had moved in together, not from neediness or societal pressure, but because we genuinely enhanced each other's already rich lives. I had a circle of close female friends who challenged and inspired me. I traveled, pursued creative projects, and maintained interests that had nothing to do with my relationships or career. Most importantly, I had learned to like myself. The constant internal criticism that had plagued me for decades had been replaced by self-compassion and authentic self-appreciation. Chapter 15. Full Circle. 3 years after meeting Dr. Teddy, I found myself back in the same venue where my transformation had begun, hosting my 38th birthday party. But this time, the experience was completely different. I planned the party not to impress others, but to celebrate with people I genuinely cared about. I wore a dress that made me feel beautiful, not because it was trendy or expensive, but because it expressed my authentic style. Throughout the evening, I noticed how differently people interacted with me. Men and women alike sought out my conversation, asked for my opinions, and seemed genuinely interested in connecting with me. But unlike 3 years earlier, I wasn't desperately seeking this attention. It felt like a natural response to the energy I was projecting. Jessica, my friend who had unknowingly triggered my transformation journey, pulled me aside during the party. "Daisy, I have to ask what happened to you. You've become this incredibly magnetic person. You're still you, but you're like the most confident, powerful version of yourself." I smiled, thinking about how to explain 3 years of inner work in a simple answer. "I learned to stop apologizing for taking up space in the world," I said. "And I discovered that when you truly like yourself, other people can't help but be drawn to that energy." Conclusion: the magnetic life. As I write this story today, I reflect on the journey from invisible to magnetic, from seeking approval to commanding respect, from feeling powerless to owning my full presence. The 6 pillars Dr. Teddy taught me weren't just about becoming more attractive to others. They were about becoming more attractive to myself. They weren't about manipulation or performance. They were about removing the barriers that prevented my authentic self from shining through. Confidence taught me to value my own opinions and presence. Detachment showed me that my worth doesn't depend on others' immediate approval. Authentic style helped me express my true self visually. Feminine energy allowed me to integrate strength with receptivity. Magnetic conversation connected me more deeply with others. Independence gave me the foundation for all healthy relationships. But perhaps the most important lesson was this: magnetism isn't about becoming someone different. It's about becoming more fully yourself. Today, when women ask me for advice about confidence, relationships, or career success, I share what Dr. Teddy taught me. You already have everything you need to be magnetic. You just need to stop hiding it from the world. Your power isn't something you need to develop. It's something you need to uncover. Your magnetism isn't something you need to learn. It's something you need to remember. The woman you admire, The one who seems effortlessly confident and naturally attractive isn't fundamentally different from you. She has simply learned to express her authentic self without apology. Your transformation begins the moment you decide to stop making yourself smaller to make others more comfortable. It begins when you choose to take up the space you deserve in this world. The magnetic woman you long to become already exists within you. She's just waiting for your permission to shine. The question isn't whether you have the power to be magnetic. The question is, are you ready to stop hiding that power from the world?